Hi everyone, this is GeoWolf from Productions², and here tonight to do our immensely shorter than last developers log for Space Crusade. And it's just kind of double whatever thing there. What's with this? Yes. So as you can probably already see, I've made a lot of changes. Don't need that anymore. To how this goes. I'll go over them here in a second. I just want to fix this real quick. Essentially with this, and then just get in here and whoops, should be equals. My mistake. I made a lot of changes, and I'll say some changes. Some things that were going to be changed anyway because we needed to make them change, and others that were changed because of issues created. The first thing you'll notice is I had a huge block of crap code up in here before. I don't know, probably if you go back and look at last month's series of developers vlogs, you'll see it in there. What all that was for EMP, I think, EMP damage. I went ahead and did the processing with that and put it down here in my actual code down here now, and modified it to what it needed to be. If you remember before, we had this huge thing. We had essentially two sections. One of it was for enemy ships, one was player ship. I'd made a comment somewhere, and maybe I still have some here around somewhere, maybe not, about how I could change it so that it only reflected a certain, like one entity instead of having to check for both to make it a lot shorter. And that's essentially what I ended up doing. Anyway, but as you can see, we still have the B target and A target and B attacker things, but they look a little bit different. That's because they no longer exist inside of the battle, or rather damage class. The problem with them before, I believe, I'm not sure on this still yet, was that I had not initialized the constructors or something, or didn't have constructors, and so it wasn't able to construct them, per se. Or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what was going on with them, but if you remember, it wasn't allowing me to use them correctly. The CPP file was reporting a let's see, operand of must be a pointer. Oh, whoops. That's from when I started the recording. It wasn't allowing me to. The CCP file, IntelliSense was reporting them as being, the references as being of a class error type. I gave up and decided to move them out into their own class and actually merge them, since they're exactly the same thing, essentially just different names. We can just instance them into those names, and in doing so, I made a little bit of a discovery, or something that I probably should have known, is that when you have a pointer, you don't actually have to reload that pointer. The pointer is a direct access link to the object that you're trying to access. So I could make a pointer to the player class and leave it like that, and modify the player class from here as needed, and not have to change anything by resetting values back to the player class, or sending values back to the player class for updating. You don't need to do that. With a reference, I think you need to, but not a pointer. And so with that in mind, here's our new battle entity class. And as you can see, it is very, very small. Actually, there's only one function, the constructor, and then one member variable, and that's to store the accessed entity object. Because what we do is we send that object through to the constructor sets it to this, and then we can just use, battacker dot entity1 arrow and access all the functions and member variables for the player, hostile, or whatever entity class we have happened to load into it. I was able to take out the ship get thing by doing this, as well we didn't need it anymore. And this void clear is to zero out the memory for that entity, just to make sure we unload the pointer. Since CPP doesn't have any what they call garbage handling, it doesn't automatically unload memory. You need to do that for it, and so zeroing it out will delete that pointer, which is a good thing. But it's a very small and compact class now. I did a lot of retooling, as you can see, of that, and because of that, we were able to make some really compact code changes to the damage class. I'm still working on some of the stuff here, as you can see, but for the most part, it looks like it's pretty well, and I'll say probably 60% territory as far as completion. There's still some things I need to hammer out and figure out, but all that stuff is there. So you can see we go through entity 1 to ship, the ship class within the entity 1 object, instead of calling directly to that ship class from ptarget. So it's a more natural progression through, albeit a bit longer for the actual code line. I also made some other changes. We're going to have what's going to happen is that we'll have two main classes that will be called every time, and then everything else will be called from inside of this class. Those two classes are setup attack type, which is where we'll send through the bools now, and then that'll set the attack type variable to whatever it's supposed to be, and then we'll just access that from within this class instead of having to send these through all the time. It'll just be a lot more, I think, efficient that way. And then we'll also call the setup battle attacker target class as well. And from here, we'll load up and create the references, and then go to damage processing and pass the references to the battle entities through there. And this is going to be similar to a processing loop, like the battle processing loop, but it's going to be it's going to essentially be a execution list, let's call it, instead of a loop, because it's not really going to be a loop. It's not going to loop through. It's going to execute through each stage of the damage process, and there will be loops within those stages. But itself will not be a loop. Let's see. I think we started that process up here, yeah. So we send those through, and then we send B attacker to setup queue. Actually, it should be definition, I suppose. Clear the queue, do whatever we need to do, goes back once the queue is loaded, and then we'll go to process weapon queue, I believe, and then we'll pass the B attacker B target references to that, and it'll actually probably just be B attacker, because the damage will be loaded in the B damage class now. I'm not even sure we need B attack. Let me go see. So B attack, all out, process weapon. I guess we'll go to B attack then, not to weapon queue, but to here. So what we don't need right now is we don't need to have these anymore. Because that's all going to be done, whoops, crap. All be done through the queue setup is where that's going to happen at. We don't have to differentiate it in there as well. Let's see, what other changes have I done? I haven't been able to do too much work because I've been dealing with, well, I did some work earlier on, then got lost up in other things I was working on then. Last weekend when I was planning to do a lot of work on this, I ended up getting pretty gnarly stomach flu. Was out for 3 days. So I'm just barely getting over it and getting back to this. Let's see, I did change some other things in ship. I'm not sure if I did any other changes elsewhere. I might have though. But in ship we added in some new stuff, I believe. Yeah, this isn't going to be needed anymore. That's something I added that we didn't need. Let's see. So what I did add though was these here. It occurred to me that we were going to have these because we need to track how many turns were left on a particular entity, and these actually should probably be on the entity class itself, but I decided to put them on ship just because they directly affect the ship, and we also have the disable counter up here, so I felt better to put them on here. But these are counters for napalm damage and nanite damage. There's also going to be one for virus as well. I think we'll go ahead and add that in right now. SV counter. Of course, we'll have to add I don't know if I actually added them here yet or not. I don't think I have. We'll have to add in the set and get functions for those. But these just keep track of the number of turns you have left for any particular turn-based damage. That was all I really did, I believe. Most of the other work's been in damage here. Pretty much 90% of the work, 99% of the work's been in here. I think there might have been some changes elsewhere. Small little changes though, but I can't remember what they were. Let me see. Space Crusade. Oh, so I did do that this time. One big change that I'd forgotten I had done was actually, if you remember before, I had tried earlier in the month, last update, during the last work cycle for this, tried to create kind of a master class, if you will, for all entities within the game, and I decided not to do that because I thought it'd be too difficult. Well, I rethought it over and decided, you know what, we have to do this because it'll make it so much easier. And also because it'll allow us to do all the efficiency stuff that I did here, and allow us to truly have a have a way of putting code in here to be entity specific, to be have a certain amount of ambiguity as far as just being able to load any type of entity into this code and not have to have any kind of special exemptions or considerations. Like, it wouldn't have to have certain code for 4 sections of code for different types of entities, or different types of objects. So I went ahead and did do the entity class. And what we did is we just went through and stripped out pretty much 90% of all the code from everything else, and put it in here and mixed it together where needed, and then the stuff that was specific to certain classes got kept in those classes, which were made into subclasses. So you can see here's the player subclass now. We've got all the stuff here that's specific to the player, then specific to the hostile, and then you got the other two down here. They're all subclasses of entity, which has the major stuff in it. I just did this way because it makes it so much easier. As you saw over there, I was able to pretty much cut out half of all the code in this this damage class due to doing that change, because we didn't have to go through and look at each of the individual things. I did a lot of it, actually. There was, now that I think about it, more stuff, more work done in battle processing. I forget exactly what all was done. It wasn't too much, but there was some stuff done. I'll still have to go through and figure out all the stuff that needs to change because of those changes that I made. But for the most part, I believe that it was just small little changes again here and there to deal with some of the other stuff I had done before. But that's just to get you up to speed. What's going on right now. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get this done in time. It's April 23rd right now as of recording this. And there's still a lot to do. Really kind of didn't get too much time to work on this edgewise for one reason or another, so I'm going to be trying to get through a lot. But right now, I'm just going to go through and we're going to do a little bit of the code here. Where was I just working on? I forget now. I was working on something before I started this episode. I just decided, you know what, we'll go ahead and do the recording session now while I'm working on this. Where was I at? Added in some more of the definition stuff up here. Defines for like the virus turns and all that stuff. More damage. Modifiers. Actually, I think we have everything. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. So we got two of those. We don't need both of them up there. It's taking up a lot of space. Just got this one down here. We're going to put it at the bottom of this. Alright, so we want to then go to so go from there up to here to the damage processing, and from there we want to go to this, and then to process weapon queue, or no, to B attack. That's right. And we're going to send through the attacker. Actually, we do need to send through B target. B entity and B target. Alright. So float down, or final damage equals this. Let's see, 0 out all damage. Need to add some extra types here. Let's see. Total secondary and secondary. So S damage and TS damage. Maybe even these. Maybe not though. So for sure that we need to do S damage equals 0.0 F and TS damage. So now I got on to process weapon queue. what did we need target for? For nothing. Well, now I suppose to pass it through here, so we need to pass it to process secondary damage. That's what we needed it for. And then we need to say v damage. I guess no, we'll leave that off. I'll probably go on the damage. Don't need to return it either. None of these should return, because it's all going to be handled inside of the function. Or inside of the class, rather. So nothing should return anything. Alright, let's see. So go through here now. Alright, so let's go down to the what's it called down here, the weapon queue thing. Set up weapon queue. Alright, so send through attacker, clears out the queue for use. If all out attack, we load all of the weapons into the weapon queue. Spread, we load in only the weapon spread selected. Weapon system, all the weapons from that specific system, or single weapon, load in the single weapon. Goes back up to here. And then goes down to process weapon queue. We're just kind of walking through to see what needs to be done still, and what needs to be changed or reordered or whatever needs to be done in between things if something's missing. Essentially, it's a continuity run, if you will. So we see what the size of the weapon queue is, and for each element we go through and we find out what type of weapon it is and act accordingly on that type. If there's no weapon damage type, we just apply the damage range to V damage. If there is a damage type, we process that secondary damage. Alright, so that sets up the vanilla and secondary damage. That brings us back up to here. And we do checks for it should be tertiary damage, I think we'd call it. I guess this would be secondary, this would be special damage, not secondary damage, true. So then we check for secondary damage, and apply that if we need to. That'll be applied through, instead of direct, we'll do it through one of the, like the S and then S, TS damage variables, S damage and TS damage. And then we'll come back up to here, and we'll go to B damage. and we should pass through B target. Alright, we'll put it underneath B attack here since it's easier to put it right there. Void damage, B damage, B entity, and B target. Oops. Alright, so what's going to happen here now is we're going to essentially round up everything into the final damage. So no, I think it'll still be direct damage. It'll have to be, because there's certain things. It'll be both, I guess, because there's certain damage types that do damage directly to specific things. And we will have to take, like, for, let's say, armor piercing, or for piercing rather, and it's not just armor, it's also hull piercing as well. We'll have to create a thing in there for it and have an exception for if there are shields. If there are shields, then there will be no bonuses applied. Unless the... That's the thing, though, because if the damage overwhelms the shields, there should be a certain amount of damage that's applied as a bonus, because yes, that's kind of the hard thing, though, because so maybe we should say, okay, if the damage that would be done is greater than the shields left, subtract the shield damage from the total damage and then make the calculations based on the remaining damage. That might be how we'll have to do it. I think that's probably going to be the way we'll have to. I'll have to make a note of that. Somewhere here, we'll just make a note real quick here. For piercing damage. Not sure if I spelled piercing right, but who gives a flip? I sure don't. Detect if shields are present. If they are, see if damage is enough to overload. If so, use remaining damage in bonus calculations. Tertiary, again, don't know if I spelled that right, tertiary conditionals for piercing 3 for armor to hull. Since piercing 3 damage does piercing damage to hull and armor, armor or hull takes more damage, I believe, than armor does. Or no, armor takes more than hull. So you have to make sure that there's that distinction. Alright, so we got that note there. Where was that one at here? Yeah, here. So, nanite damage is direct damage to all those things. Whereas... yeah, here, you got this one here. This damage plus that. Plus equals TS damage. So yeah, so we got that there. So maybe we don't, well, we may have to store that value as well somewhere where it can be saved, probably on the ship as well. The amount of secondary damage that has been applied. it's going to be slightly convoluted and complicated in the way that it works with that. But so back up here to this. So apply that, then we go down to damage. So F damage, final damage equals V damage plus M damage plus TS damage. And then we're going to say B target dot entity 1. Oops. And we're going to say F damage. And I'm going to go to entity because we need to fix that, change that. I'm going to change it back to how I had originally. We're going to have one major function that will interact with those other take damage functions instead of being going to each of them directly. I think it's just better if we do it that way. So void take damage and say float damage. And we're going to call this apply instead of take. So let's see. If shield's going to observe all damage, bypass, see. Note need shield bypass, check later on. So essentially here's what we're going to do. Have these get in front of the entity constructor. That's strange. There's no constructor. There should be one, since we call it. Alright, then void what happened with that? Apply S damage. It's there. Oh. There we go. That's the problem. Never mind. Okay, so how this is going to work now is these are just going to have singular things here. They're just going to say ship dot set It's really too bad it's supposed to be a float, not an int. What's up with that? So shields, max hull, max armor, okay. And we're going to do what we did with the entity class, or what was, what is now the entity class, and add these string operation things in here with these, just to make it easier to deal with them. Let's see, expected a type specifier. String operation. That's interesting. Oh, it must have been IntelliSense being stupid. And let me tell you, it is stupid much of the time. Alright, so for those at least, we're going to have that. Armor, hull, max hull, shields, max shields. Okay, that's all of them. For the CPP here. Alright, so and of course this will be easy now. Okay, so if operation equals add sarmor plus equals f. Voila. There we have it. Simple as that. Let's go ahead and copy paste this. Changes needed. Alright, so okay, this is crap, I missed this one. Whole. These are the kind of problems that are the worst, is the ones that are technically incorrect, but they're semantically correct. There's nothing wrong with what was here, it was just not what it was supposed to be. Those are the kind of errors you have to watch out for, because they're the hardest to spot. Well, not to spot, but they're easy to make, and you won't always catch them. And when you run the program, you wonder why things aren't working correctly, because, lo and behold, the hole is not being set, so it's a huge or negative number, and it crashes the program when it tries to interact with it. And you wonder, why the hell is that? It's because it wasn't initialized, because you, or by extension me, I, would have, as it would have been, forgot to change that to what it should have been. Shield. Alright. So now that we have that done, what we can do is back over here in player, or rather entity. And so there you have it. Now you subtract the damage, just like we were with the other ones where you add or subtract as needed. That's how you do it here. So now what we have to do now is we have to figure out how to get this to work now. So if ship shields are going to be greater than or equal to the damage, then we say damage 2 equals minus damage set shield, and then we say yeah, we can just do this so much easier by saying this. That's all I have to do, and set that to 0. Now, if shields are going to be under damage, and all we just have to do is call apply S damage. Simple as that. So, So here's what we do with this. We say, so if the ships are lower or less than the amount of damage, in other words, if the shields are going to be taken out by the damage, we say that we essentially we take out what that is, and then we say apply S damage ship dot get S shield. We essentially we pass to this function the total shield points the ship has, and we zero it out that way. Then we say if ship.get armor is greater than damage, apply a damage. Oh. Whoops. And these don't have to return anything either. So, if armor can absorb then we do the same thing. We go damage minus equals ship dot get a RS armor, apply a damage ship dot get S armor, so essentially we're making a nested kind of if-then structure, so that things happen in sequence if the conditions are met. So if ship dot get S hull is greater than damage, if hull can absorb all damage, apply that should be less than or equal to. Is the less than damage if hull cannot absorb. Then we just say apply H damage ship.get s hull. So we have a very efficient and easy way of doing that. Now, we are going to have to make this a bit more complicated somehow, because there's going to have to be a way that we can. Well, I know that we'll use these directly from damage when we have to use the direct damage. Otherwise, we just do it from here. Let's go ahead and add these in here. Ship.set s armor damage sub. And there you have it. So we minimize these to their most basic state and moved all the complexity out into one function that handles everything instead of having it spread over 3 functions. So while it's technically about the same amount of code, maybe a little bit more, it's less overall complexity. At least in this class. There's more complexity now in the ship class because we've added in this if-else structure for for those now. But it's better that way because it keeps with the it keeps everything on the same theme, if you will. Anything that has a set should have this kind of a structure to it. So it's the same across the entire program. So back over here now. Yeah, so that works now. So we have that, does the damage. Damage gets sent, gets computed. And so now what we need to do is we need to call clear bat. Be attacker, be target. And essentially each one of these goes in sequence, and that's how that works. I think that's how I think that will make this now be workable. Meaning that if I went and ran it right now, it would work. Maybe not as intended, but at least work as expected, or as it's coded to. So with that done, now we need to focus on how we set this up, because now we need to figure a way to get the entities to send them here to this class here, set up bat. So let's head over to the battle proc real quick. Actually, let's do this a little bit easier for a way. Let's see. Find all references. So there is not one reference created to this yet over here in battle proc. There should be a section where we have something that has a bunch of bools in it. That's sending bools over. Let's find that. Maybe I got rid of it. Maybe not. I know you're here somewhere. Is this here? We go, sub button key. Okay. So, here's what we do. Well, let me check real quick. Where's my header file? Let's go and bring that over here, the CPP too. I believe we created an entity attack order, storing variables. Maybe I did them up here at top of this. Somewhere. So it's player target and H target. Okay, so so the question is then, how do we determine, I guess, well, we could do it by having, let me see, this is for the player stuff, right? Yeah. So the player is always going to be the attacker in this case, so whenever the hostile is attacking, we would say then, yeah, save non-hostile, we'd say it'd be the hostile first, so that'll be easier to do that. Where was I just at where I was making these changes? Oh, this one here, yeah, okay. So damage, setup, bat. We'll leave that there. That'll be the first one. Damage dot setup bat. And so we say M player and then P target. Ah, true. We need to do the M player dot there we go. So return the pointers. Up here we no longer need these. Setup a type. Always call this function first. And so we can just go ahead and take this and copy paste it down here. Why do we have this twice though? I think that was a mistake on my part for that stuff. It shouldn't be there. Yeah, it should be like this. I think I had maybe thought there's probably some other way I had done it and then we changed it. Alright, so yeah, that's pretty much all we had to do with that. So we set up the attack type first, and then we set up the bat, and then from there it goes on with the rest of the stuff. I know that's all I'm going to go over for right now. Wanted to keep it short and simple. Just show you some of the new classes. Show some of the efficiency work that's been done, and do a little bit of coding for you. That's all we're going to do for this developer's vlog. Want to try and keep it below 2 hours. I'm not sure how long I've been recording for. I think it's probably been either close to or just under an hour so far. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you, if nothing else, I hope you learned a little bit. If you have any comments or questions, leave them below in the comments section. And if you have not yet, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to our channel. And I will see you for the next developer's vlog. Until then, stay well, and I'll see you later.